Hi, and welcome to Cosmic Consciousness with Cassia. On this channel, we discuss all aspects of the Ascension journey. I have a variety of different services that I offer, and those are all listed in the description box below. So if you would like some assistance, please reach out to me. I am always happy and willing to help. Today, we're going to get right into it. We are going to be doing the Astrological Ascension forecast for the week of the 27th through the 2nd of August. And so this is definitely an interesting and dynamic week that we have going on. Last week was extremely interesting as well. I don't know about you guys, but there was a lot of energy that went on with that new moon that I was not expecting. And when we talked about how we're templating our new reality and a lot of our blocks are being revealed to us, the areas that we need to work on so that we're able to move forward and manifest the life that we want. But I didn't expect that to be so intense or so heavy. And the energies just on that day, I think with that portal like energy that we talked about with the 7/20/2020 and all of that, I think there was so much going out and so much coming in, and it definitely threw me off balance, and it threw me off balance for a few days. This entire week really has been pretty crazy and pretty intense energetically. So I love all of you, and I hope that you guys are hanging in there. I've been doing my best to hang in there too. I've been needing a lot of sleep, even more sleep than usual, just feeling really tired and just kind of like I'm dragging, like I'm napping constantly. I'm so grateful that I'm able to do that today. Really, really so grateful, because if I had to be pushing through a normal work schedule right now and I weren't able to set my own schedule, it would be extremely challenging. So my heart goes out to all of you who've been struggling through this and having to deal with all of that on top of it, waking up early, going to work, pushing through work, coming home, taking care of responsibilities. And so that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. The most intense energy that we have going on this week, and it's pretty much a week-long aspect, is a T-square that's going on between Mercury in Cancer, Jupiter in Capricorn, and Mars in Aries. So a T-square is when we have two opposing planets, and then each of these planets is squaring a third planet. So the third planet is up here making a square to both of these opposing planets. And so that third planet is called the focal planet, which in this case is Mars in Aries. So we have on one side Mercury in Cancer, which is we're in this very emotional, mental energy still right now, right? Very intuitive, but also highly emotionally charged. We're thinking very emotionally. We're thinking in terms of family. We're thinking in terms of nurturing, and with that beautiful feminine energy, right? And that's a beautiful thing. But it is a little bit in contrast with the energies that we have going on with Mars and Aries, which is very much that hyper masculine, super, or hyper, primal masculine energy, right? That super fiery, let's go, let's do this, I want what I want when I want it kind of energy. And then we have on the other end Jupiter and Capricorn, which is very much I want to expand, I want to grow, but I want to do this within a set of parameters that works and is realistic. So it's a really interesting energy, because we have the Mars energy wanting to go, raring to go. We have the Jupiter and Capricorn energy being there are steps in a procedure to this. And then we have the Mercury and Cancer energy being but I don't know how I feel about that. And so that's basically the synopsis of what's going on right now. And then Mercury and Cancer talking to Mars and Aries, who is what do you mean, how do you feel? It's time to go. We don't have time for this, So it's very intriguing. There's a lot of energy coming up this week, both with this and with the square that we're having between Uranus and Taurus and the Sun in Leo, that's really bringing up this interesting energy too of social acceptability, right? So we'll look first at how this relates to the T-square that we have going on. So we have Jupiter and Capricorn. So Capricorn is that energy of status. It's that energy of authority, right? We're learning how to expand into our own inner authority, especially with Jupiter in retrograde. It's that inner process, right? But at the same time, there's that aspect for some of us that may be getting caught up in status, that may be getting caught up in how do I look to other people? What's socially acceptable, right? Jupiter also rules morals and values. And when we're looking in Capricorn, that's like, how are those morals and values expressed in a collective sense, right? Like Capricorn's that authoritarian energy. It's that energy that in a lot of ways represents like the 3D collective. So it's like, how are our dreams and our goals and our aspirations and the ways that we're wanting to expand sort of viewed by the collective of society? Like, does that make us more or less socially acceptable, and how much do we really care about that? You know, Mars in Aries doesn't care about that a whole lot. Mars in Aries, like we said, is like, I want what I want when I want it, how I want it, and I want it now. And so that's the energy that we have balancing this out. So you guys know this is going to be interesting. The focal planet is the planet that helps to balance out the two polarities that we can look to for guidance and how to navigate that. So, like, all joking aside, the way that we can use Mars to navigate this energy is by looking at our passions, looking at what drives us, looking at what we really care about. Like, if we're concerned with status and we're concerned with social acceptability and these types of things, what is our passion and our drive? What is the things that, what we really care about? Like, the things that really matter to us. Like, do those line up with that? And if they don't, like, are we willing to be brave like Mars is, like Aries is? Are we willing to be courageous and go after that anyway? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Right? Like, that's a big question that we're pondering this week. And then we have that Mercury and Cancer energy, which is very much like wanting to move intuitively, right? So this is also in contrast with that Mars and Aries energy. Mercury and Cancer wants to move intuitively. It wants to flow. It wants to be gentle. It's really like, let's think about this from all of the different perspectives and angles, as far as like, not how does this make me feel, right? How is this going to make the other people in my life feel? How are the people in my life going to be supported during this process, right? Because Cancer is that mother energy. It's that nurturing energy. We're thinking very much, it's that fourth house energy, right? The energy of the home. So we're really thinking and wanting to be considerate of other people's emotions and thoughts as we move forward as well. And so this is that, you can see how that contradicts that Mars and Aries energy, but it's just about, like, once again, looking to our passion, looking to our drive, looking to our motivation, and being like, okay, well, how do I harmonize this with, like, my emotional needs and the emotional needs of others right now? And so, yeah, it's a very dynamic energy. It's very much a push-pull energy. I almost said a grand trine. A T-square is extremely tense, dynamic energy. So we're not going to be able to get away from these questions and these issues. We're really going to be pushed to look at this stuff and to figure this stuff out. There really is absolutely no way around it. Jupiter in Capricorn is asking us, and has been asking us for a while, to figure out, how do I want to grow? How do I want to expand when it comes to my ideals, when it comes to my beliefs, when it comes to my faith, when it comes to my morals and my ethics, when it comes to all of these different things? Like, how do I want to expand, and like, what's the plan to get that done? How can I do that realistically? Like, Jupiter's in an uncomfortable energy because he doesn't like to be realistic. He's very positive. Jupiterian energy is very much that positive, benevolent, like, everything will just work out because I'm wonderful and life is wonderful and you're all wonderful. And, you know, the Capricorn energy is kind of like, yeah, that's true, but like, there is a process to this, and like, we could be strategic and more effective in this manner. And so we already have, just with Jupiter in and of itself, that energy going on, and then everything else. And that Jupiter energy is also very much asking us to take our faith and take these things, and like, this week is very much about grounding all of that into the physical, grounding everything we've learned about ourselves, about the world, about our spirituality, about our life purpose, and where we want to go and how we want to do it, right? And figuring out how we want to do it and grounding that into something practical and solid and concrete. Yeah, so we have that. We also have this other energy with Mercury in Cancer, where because we are thinking very sensitive, we're feeling very sensitively, we may be nervous also about putting ourselves out there, right? So we're, on one hand, like there may be issues of social acceptability coming up, and also in addition to that, we may just be feeling sensitive, feeling like sensitive to criticism, like what are people going to think, what are people going to say, like wanting to, feeling that desire to crawl back into our shell. And that's when we can really counter that with that Mars and Aries energy that's like, no, like we're putting ourselves out there, we're doing this because this is important and this matters to me, right? Like the Mars and Aries energy is very much about this matters to me. Like I understand that you all have needs, but I have needs too, and my needs are also important. And so that is, I mean, this is an overriding energy. We have Mars transiting Aries, and Mars is going to be in Aries for a while. So I'm probably going to do another video. There's just so much. I already did one video on this where we really focused on like the healing aspect, but on the empowerment aspect of this transit as well, because there's just so much going on with that. And it's such a beautiful energy, but it really is that energy where we have to consistently check ourselves. And that's what Mercury in Cancer is reminding us to do. That's what Jupiter in Capricorn is reminding us to do. Like check ourselves, make sure that we are on course, that we are not just jumping headlong into things without thinking them through and making a plan, and really also that we are considering our own needs and emotions and the needs and emotions of the other people around us as we move forward, and really checking in with our intuition and utilizing that as our guide. Okay. Yep. And then what else? I have to go over this list, you guys, because it's a lot of information that I'm relaying to you guys as far as all these different aspects go. Yeah, so another thing, you guys, we want to be careful of is the fact that when we have this Mars energy squaring this Mercury energy, it can make us really, we're emotionally charged, and we're adding in that fire energy, right? So we can become very easily triggered, especially with Chiron still in retrograde right now. Like people can trigger us. We may want to tell people off this week. We may be feeling very like with something, somebody says something or does something, it triggers us emotionally, and then we react to that with that Mars energy of coming at somebody in a way that we don't want to. So we want to be really cognizant of that. We could see people getting really feisty. And if people get feisty with you, just remember that this energy is going on. And if this is happening, it's very likely that something is triggering them. And it, like, this has nothing to do with you, so don't take it personally. Something is triggering them, and they are reacting with all of this powerful energy. That's all it is. And just reminding ourselves of the same thing when we end up in those positions where we start wanting to lash out or wanting to do that as well. Yeah, and then we have this square going on with the Sun and Uranus. And so Uranus really wants us to walk our talk. Uranus is the planet that rules Aquarius, right? So it's all about like being the real, true, authentic version of who we are in the world. And in the sign of Taurus, once again, we have another earth sign energy, right? That this planet is in. It's asking us to really express that in our physical reality. Like to really reflect that in our actions, in the way that we live, in the way that we behave, in the way that we just are in the world. It wants authenticity. And then we have the Sun in Leo. And the Sun in Leo wants to express, it wants to play, right? Leo energy is very expressive. However, Leo energy also really wants to love and be loved. And so once again, we come into this social acceptability thing where we may feel this tug of war between wanting to be our authentic selves and also like wanting to impress people or wanting people to applaud or cheer for us or just love us, and just not knowing how to reconcile that. So it's like a major week of like learning how to take off the mask, which is a really ironic statement considering like the huge battle that we're not going to go into on here about the mask, no mask, as far as you guys know what I'm talking about. So it's actually kind of funny in that regard, but that's really what we're being asked to do is like take off the mask and show who we really are. And so ultimately that's what Leo wants to do. Leo wants to express the truth of who they are with that bigness and that boldness, but sometimes they do get caught in that trap of wanting to look good, as Capricorn does. And so this is really a lesson in like, is it better to feel good or look good, right? Is it better to be who I truly am or to be who other people want me to be? To get applause for being someone other than who I really am, or to possibly take a little heat and a little flack for being myself? And so that's kind of one of the battles that we're fighting this week within ourselves, is trying to figure that out and trying to reconcile that. Yeah, so we could spend this week feeling super rebellious, super stubborn, right? Like Uranus and Taurus kind of energy. Hopefully, try not to turn this energy around too much on yourselves. Try not to be too hard on yourselves. But like that kind of energy, and then that loving, caring, sensitive, like, going with the flow and going with the grain. We're going with the grain 1 minute and then we're going against it. And then we're just kind of like bouncing back and forth. I'm seeing like a pinball machine, right? Like that's sort of how we're possibly going to feel this week coming up. And I'm saying this with a smile on my face, even though I'm not looking forward to it. Oh man, it's going to be interesting though. It's going to be interesting. So we also have the Sun trining Chiron this week. This is going to be exact on August the 1st. I wrote this stuff down. I'm sorry I'm not giving you guys all the exact dates. But like basically throughout the week, these planets move into exact conjunction. And we feel the energies as we're moving into it. And then we feel them most dramatically on the day that they meet exactly. But then still, like, we're going to continue to feel these energies, or whatever aspect. It doesn't have to be a conjunction. Whatever aspect I'm talking about. Like, there's the exact day where the degrees are exact, and then as they're moving into it, where we feel the building of that energy. The climax of that energy could be said to be on the day that they're exact, and then sort of the dissipation of that energy afterwards. So on August 1st, the sun will be exactly trine Chiron. And so this is kind of a helpful energy, I think, this week. This can go one of two ways for people. I feel this for some people as an over-identification with their wounds and with their old stories, because that's what Chiron is healing right now. It's healing this in our ability to assert ourselves, right? Because it's in the sign of Aries, right? And the ways we express our masculine energy and go after what we want. And all of that stuff, which I talked about in the Mars and Aries video, if you guys want to check that out for more information on that. But it's like all of these wounds that we're healing and all of this stuff. So with that trining aspect, that really harmonious aspect, the sun representing our consciousness and our self and our ego, we may over-identify with those stories or be shown how we over-identify with them. Or for others of us who have already come to this realization, this I feel as like a soothing energy where we become at peace with some of that stuff. Some of the wounds that have been coming up that we've been looking at, some of this trauma that's been surfacing, we start to come to a sense of really feeling and resonating with the healing around that, and knowing that we have done a lot of that work, and it's just really sinking into that acceptance of these things, acceptance and the ability now and the empowerment of realizing that we have the power to change them. So that's a really beautiful, powerful aspect that we have going on this week. As I said, we want to be really careful to not overly identify with those wounds, and to be able to look at them, come into acceptance of them, but not as like, this is who I am, as like this happened, right? But this is not my reality anymore, and I don't have to live my life governed by this or by the experience of this, and let that dictate my reality in a way that is not pleasing to me moving forward. Like, I can look at this, I've looked at this, I can heal this, I can move through this pain, and I can take the lessons that I learned from this and apply that to my life moving forward, and feel good about that, and feel like it's like a sense of completion almost for some of that stuff, which is like a nice breath of fresh air for us. Yeah, and then we also have the sun in the beginning of the week making a loose trine to Black Moon Lilith, true Black Moon. And so this is helpful as well, because it's the same thing, but this is dealing with those areas where we felt repressed, right? So getting some healing around that as well. And I'm connecting this now in my mind with that Uranus energy as well, with the Sun square Uranus, and how some of that and our desire to express these aspects of ourselves that were repressed, that we've had healing around, that we're now embracing. And the Sun in Leo being like, I don't know, like, we're cool with that now, and like, it's okay in in this context, but do we really want to like put that out there? So that's another interesting way that those energies are kind of like intermingling right now. But we are finding some healing around that, or some acceptance around that, and some ability, some integration. This Sun Trine Chiron is helping with the integration of the healing of these wounds. And then we also have Mercury trine Neptune, and this is exact on the 30th. And so this is like a beautiful energy of like connecting deeply with our intuition, right? Mercury's in Cancer, so we're mentally in a more feminine, intuitive space. And this Neptune and Pisces energy is like pure spiritual energy, right? So we talk about Neptune as being that window into all of the greater universe, right? And so we're really being connected with that. We're receiving a lot of information, a lot of psychic hits and downloads you can expect this week because of this connection, as well as Jupiter and Neptune, which we're going to talk about next. So yeah, like we're experiencing a lot of that, and we're having things revealed to us. Neptune is the planet that can represent illusion, right? Illusion and deception and confusion. And Neptune's in retrograde right now. So we're really taking an internal look at the places where we have deluded ourselves in the past, especially when it comes to our spirituality and all of these different things, but when it comes to really anything. And so when it's in connection with Mercury, this is where some of our thought patterns and the ways that we've perceived situations and people and anything of that nature is being revealed to us, and we're starting to get a greater insight into that and understand those processes a little bit more and have some truth and some clarity revealed to us. Anywhere where we've been operating under illusion like that, like mentally, that may be revealed to us during this time. This is a harmonious aspect, so hopefully it won't be too much of a slap in the face. I feel like this energy has been slowly building, right? And so it's just going to be like a deeper revelation and understanding of all of that. But it's that Neptune energy, right? So we're able to look at things from a higher perspective. We're able to understand from that higher perspective and bring in that unconditional love at the same time for ourselves, for any, if these situations involve other people, for other people involved in these situations, and really utilize that energy in a positive way as we're coming to these understandings. But I think a lot of this is going to have to do with our own mental processes as well, our ways of perceiving the world, and how maybe some of that was skewed, and just a deeper level and understanding of that. Yep, and with all this psychic stimulation that we have going on this week, anxiety might be increasing as well. So to just be aware of that and really take care of ourselves a little more than we normally would. And really be working on cleansing and clearing our energetic fields. I just did a video where I talked about this. I'll link that in the description box below. You guys really want to check that out and make sure that you're doing this, because it's going to be really necessary. And we have a lot going on with our energetic fields this week. We have also this exact sextile pretty much all week long between Jupiter and Neptune. And so we're receiving so many high vibrational codes through this connection. And with that Capricorn energy that Jupiter's in right now, we are grounding those into the physical. We're grounding those in our physical bodies. We're grounding those into Gaia. There's a lot of intensity going on with that. So our energy fields are going to need a lot of care. We're going to want to really be grounding, meditating, but like grounding, making sure that we are absolutely focusing on and doing that. Like this is where we're also taking our higher spiritual ideals and philosophies and expanding upon those, but in a very concrete way, in a way that has a plan, that has action behind it. This is once again like walking our talk when it comes to our spiritual selves, right? And like, how do we show that in the physical world? How do we manifest our spirituality in the physical world? We may be called to start some sort of routine at this point, as far as our spirituality goes, as far as our spiritual connection and the ways that we show that and nurture that. We're really being asked to nurture and expand upon our spirituality, our faith, and build and make like a concrete plan of like, how do I, like, factoring this, creating habits. It takes 21 days to create a habit. So this is a great time to start like a new morning ritual of meditation, or even just something simple as lighting some incense and saying some prayers. Anything, it can be small or big, but we're really being asked to get into that and to think about like what ways and how it is that we merge the spiritual with the physical. How do we express the fact that we're spiritual beings in this physical reality is what we're being asked to look at. Yeah. And another interesting energy that I got is that for those of you who feel like there has been a situation that you've been dealing with lately that's been compromising you morally, and you don't really know how to navigate it or how to get out of it, there will be information coming to you through this connection and some of the other aspects and connections going on this week that will help you to see a way out of that, or a way to navigate that, a way to really to be able to stand in your integrity and in a way that doesn't harm anyone, and that is beneficial for all involved. There's a way to do that, a way to stand up, a way to achieve that. And so that's going to be coming through for anyone who's dealing with that. And then we have, of course, the Venus Square Neptune energy. And so I just did another video. It was about the self-love and the healing of self-love and the self-love challenge. So I encourage you guys to check that out. But that was inspired, I believe, by the energies that I was feeling and experiencing due to this Venus Square Neptune energy. So this is a really interesting energy with a lot of different facets, right? So we're being given this opportunity to really examine and understand our ideals when it comes to love, when it comes to partnerships, when it comes to our relationships with other people. Like, what is it that we are seeking from others? What are our true needs and desires? What are our beliefs or expectations around love and around our friendships and relationships? And are those being met? And are those realistic? There's also an energy with this where it's triggering, anything that's going on right now is triggering very internal processes within us, because Neptune is in retrograde, right? So we're being asked to really go inside with this stuff. Neptune is a planet that can create illusion, right? So we can end up in an energy in our relationships and in our friendships where things aren't quite what they seem, and we could be getting some intuitive insight, but at the same time we could also be misinterpreting situations. And so it's one of those energies where you want to just move through it and take note of what you're experiencing and thinking about and any conclusions that you may be drawing, but getting too crazy about any of that stuff until we move through this energy. But it's really allowing us, like, Neptune is also the great dissolver. It's allowing us to surrender any of the fears, any of the unrealistic expectations, any of that stuff that's been weighing us down and sort of like making our relationships more difficult. And like, Neptune is giving us the ability to surrender that, just to surrender in general. So that's a really interesting aspect of this energy as well. But it's also just like asking us to go internally and like see, like, okay, so my ideals and my values around love, right, around however that's expressed in whatever facet, like, are those unrealistic? Or is it just that the expectation that I have of the people in my life that I'm asking for that from is unrealistic? And do I need to adjust my expectations, or do I need to adjust who I have in my life? And also, in addition to this, like, am I willing and ready to look, right? Because this is about internal, right? Neptune in retrograde. Am I willing to look at the fact that everything that I'm experiencing outwardly is a reflection of what's going on within me? So if I'm not experiencing the love that I know that I'm now coming to see that I truly seek and desire without, do I have that within? And if I don't, how can I build that and create that within myself? So that's another energy that we're experiencing with this. It's like, also a square off between like us wanting to be out there mingling and experimenting and experiencing new things, right? Like that Venus and Gemini, that curious kind of fun energy. We're seeking, we're learning, and like balancing that with our need for spiritual, like with like deep spiritual connection, which is that Neptune and Pisces energy. And like, how do we merge those things, right? How do those come into agreement with each other? And do they? Do we, what is most important to us right now? Is it our spiritual connection, or is it sort of like this fun and this experimenting and this kind of like moving and grooving, like, and can we find a way to move and groove with people that we also have a deep and spiritual connection with? And just really looking at the interplays of those and our relationships, and like which ones we do feel spiritually connected in and which ones we don't, which ones we do feel inspired and motivated and like cerebrally stimulated in, right? Like Gemini is that cerebral energy, and which ones are a little bit lackluster. And like, what do, if we are finding that our relationships and our partnerships and our friendships are lackluster, like what can we do about that? So those are a lot of different energies going on with the Venus square Neptune. And so, yeah, we could have a lot of realizations that we come to. Things could be revealed to us. But really, what we think is being revealed outwardly, that's part of the deception and the illusion of Neptune. Really isn't an outward thing. For a lot of us, it's just catalyzing this internal process that helps us to come to realizations within ourselves. Like, we may see one thing and think one thing is going on and interpret a situation a certain way, but the situation isn't even necessarily that way. It's just that's what we're seeing because that's what we're expecting to see, because that's what we need to see or believe is happening in order to trigger this process that brings us to a deeper realization and understanding of our own needs and desires and feelings and motivations. So, yeah, it's a really tricky, interesting energy that we're navigating, and that's why it's important to just observe and to just constantly continue to bring it back to the self, as we always do. What is this teaching me? What is this triggering in me? What would I have to believe in order to be having this emotion or this experience? What would I have to believe is true? And is that true? And does that, and if that was once true for me, do I want that, or do I need that to be true anymore? And if I don't, am I ready to release that? That's a big energy this week coming up when it comes to our thought processes as well, right? When we have that connection going on with Mercury and Neptune as well. It's like with our thought processes, with our relationships, with all of this stuff, like just letting go of the things that are outdated, letting Neptune dissolve and swallow that which no longer serves us in these areas, those beliefs that are no longer serving us and are no longer constructive. And so that pretty much wraps it up as far as the major aspects of the week and the different energies that we're going to be feeling. Yeah. And so we are receiving that guidance. It's just about like being able to tune into that and being able to recognize that guidance when it appears. And I'm getting the feeling that for some of us, it may appear in ways that we were not expecting. So there's a little bit of that unexpected, more of that like Uranian energy going on too, right? All right. So, yeah, and the full moon coming up should be interesting because there's a lot of, the full moon is ruled by Uranus, and there's a lot of unpredictable, interesting energy going on with that. So that should be fun to dissect. But we're here in this week right now. The full moon is on the 3rd, so that technically is starting off next week. So we had a new moon starting off last week. This week we're got all these other energies going on, and then we're going to have a full moon starting off the week after that. So very intense. I mean, Christ. It always is, right, guys? We're going to see what the Black Moon Astrology cards have to say. Whoa, that came flopping out at me. The Yod, Destiny. So challenging and triggering events, right? Like we were talking about with that Venus square Neptune energy, with that T-square that we have going on. Events that really trigger us and push our buttons and reveal things about us that need to be revealed, but that are destined to be revealed and have to be revealed so we can move forward toward our life purpose, toward our life mission, toward embracing our destiny. But we're going to be triggered. We're going to be pushed. If we don't get out of our comfort zone, we are going to be pushed out of our comfort zone. And then we have Mars, as I said, that force, right? This is the energy. This is the energy, this dynamic energy that's forcing us to move. This forceful energy, this energy of, like, this is the overriding energy that we are being asked to embrace, to learn how to embrace in a constructive way, but to really call upon. What is my passion? What is my drive? How do I create my reality, right? This is the energy of our will, of manifestation. How do I create my reality and shape my reality to be something that feels true to me? Staying true to ourselves, staying true to our souls. And then we have Mercury mind. So there's that mercurial energy, right? All of this stuff going on around the mind. And it's like, this is the force of our mind and the power of our minds as well. We're really coming to understand this. And this is a lot of those patterns that we were talking about that we're working through. These old patterns that this connection with Neptune is revealing to us, so that we can shed some of those old beliefs, those old stories, and really harness the power of our minds moving forward. And this is also communication. Like, Mercury is also about communication. So really we got the Mars card next to the Mercury card. So being very careful and deliberate with our communication this week moving forward is going to be critical, as we said. And then we have Chiron, healing, right? And Taurus, I have. And so, yeah, we have all of this deep healing energy that's going on, this healing of the mind, right? This healing of our will and our ability to assert ourselves. All of that energy, and how we're really learning how to, like, it's all leading us toward our destiny. It's all leading us toward our life purpose. Everything, this is all a training ground. We are in training right now. We are spiritual warriors in boot camp, training to fight the battle of our lives, right? And it is so intense, but it has to be. It couldn't be any other way, because this spiritual fight that we are in right now is the fight of our lives. We are ascending. We are so supported, and it is happening. But it's not going to be easy. We are the way showers, right? Those of us going through this process first and fully aware and conscious of what's happening and going on are the ones who are blazing the way and forging that path for others. And there were others doing it long before we did. There were people, it's been quite a while that some people have been aware of this process. And now more and more people are coming into it. So really, we're the next wave of way showers that are paving the way forward. But it's still pretty early in this process as far as those ripples go out, There are a lot of people still who haven't even entered any of these stages of awareness yet. So we are doing this for them. We are templating this new reality, these new possibilities for them. And that is absolutely beautiful. And that's this Taurus energy, templating all of that, bringing that into the physical. Taurus is the sign of the physical, the most physical sign. So like we said, with all of that information, all of those light codes, all of this, grounding it and bringing it into the physical, really manifesting ourselves in this physical reality. And then we have the moon soul. So also bringing our soul into this equation, manifesting and creating this reality and tuning into our souls, allowing our souls to guide us through this process. There's a lot of really intense dynamic energy, but in the end, we always want to be finding a way to connect back with our souls, right? Our souls are speaking to us. We're receiving all of these downloads, all of this communication. We have so much intuition going on during this week. And so it's really like constantly tuning back into those messages of our souls. And then we have Pluto transformation, Grand Trine, blessings. And on the bottom of the deck, we have 7th house partners. And so, yeah, this is an incredibly transformative process that we are in right now. this whole thing, like we said, this is the spiritual boot camp, right? We are being prepared. And so we are transforming. This is endings. This is beginnings, right? Like this is constant, these endings and beginnings as we wrap up these cycles, as we shed another layer of who we are not and step into another layer of who we are and get closer to our souls. We transform again and again and again. And there are so many blessings that are ready and waiting to come our way when we allow this process of transformation and transmutation to happen. And then it's partners. We're looking at our partnerships like we talked about. We're looking at which ones we value, which ones bring value to our lives, right? Which ones do not. Which ones do we have that spiritual connection in? We're realizing a lot of things about our partnerships and our relationships and how they reflect our self-worth, right? Taurus is also self-worth. It rules the second house, the house of worth. So really looking at that and understanding that and reevaluating those partners, those partnerships, both in business and in our romantic lives, friendships, all of those different partnerships. Any final cards? South Node, life's debts. Moving out of this past life energy into the energy of our future. For some people, there are partners who were part of a past cycle that aren't going into this cycle with you. These are karmic partners. These are partners that came into your life for a season and a reason, and now you're really seeing that and really getting ready to move beyond that. And then on the bottom of the deck, or a card that almost popped up that I just put on the bottom of the deck, was Capricorn I use. So that Capricorn energy, really anchoring and centering into that, more of that grounding. I use. How can I center and all of this spiritual energy into the physical reality? How can I manifest my life, right, Mars, in this physical reality, in this physical world? Okay. And then we're going to get just a final card from... That's weird. I'm wanting to use the Moonology deck. I don't know why I thought that was weird. I guess because I've had this one forever. It's like, but it has great messages, great, simple, and to the point. So guidance for this week of the 27th through the 2nd. Guidance for this week coming up. We got communication is key. Have faith in your dreams. And conclusions are within reach, right? So the endings and the new beginnings, the endings and the new beginnings. Communication, being careful with how we communicate, but communicating what it is that we need to communicate. Being our authentic selves, right? Communicating our truth. Having faith in our dreams, our desires, our ambitions. Having the courage to go after those and continuing to have faith, right? Jupiter wants us to ground that faith in the practical, but Jupiter is about faith. Jupiter is all about faith, building that faith, the concrete steps that we can take to build our faith. And conclusions are within reach. Conclusions to situations. We talked about this a little bit. Any of those situations where people feel their morals are being compromised, those conclusions to that. Any situations that you know are outdated, any of these karmic situations, a lot of this stuff is coming to a close. There are conclusions, and this is also conclusions as well as like understandings and those internal mental conclusions that we talked about, and just really coming to know and understand those things that maybe we were a little bit confused on before. And any decisions that we were trying to make, coming to conclusions around those. And once again, it's like we have this Mars energy, right? So it's like we have... I just got really distracted there because I was looking at, like, we have Mercury, communication, Gemini, which is Mercury energy. And then we have the have faith in your dreams, which is reminding me of like the Jupiter energy. And also the Mars energy, because it's like the action, right? The dreams, the desires, all of that. And like moving toward those. And then the conclusions, which is reminding me of the Capricorn energy and how we're closing out. So I don't know. It was just reminding me of this T-square action that we have going on. But yeah, like, have faith in your dreams. Understand that all possibilities are possible. It's just like some of these situations where we're feeling trapped or we're feeling like we don't know what to do or what choice to make. Some of those conclusions are going to come for you guys when you actually man up and have a conversation that you need to have with somebody. Like, tell it straight, tell it how it is, communicate what you're thinking, how you're feeling, what's going on. Sometimes, like, we get so caught up in our heads trying to figure stuff out before we have a conversation with someone about it that we don't realize that if we had just had the conversation, we would have been able to figure it out together, right? We feel like we need to do it individually, but sometimes it needs to be a combined effort, and things will work out a lot more harmoniously than we think if we're willing and able to do that and actually just bare our souls to someone and tell them what we're thinking and what we're going through and what's going on. And we may find out that they can relate a lot more than we think they can, or that we're actually much more on the same page than we imagined. And then on the bottom of the deck here, we have look at the bigger picture. So it says full moon in Sagittarius, but I'm also looking at it as that higher perspective that we're getting from all of these sextiles that we have going on to Neptune, right? So, like, looking at that bigger picture, seeing beyond what is, not taking things at face value, looking at the bigger picture. So this is also looking at the bigger picture when it comes to, like, what is this triggering? What is this bringing up within me, right? Like, why is this situation present in my reality? What is it teaching me? Like, all of that stuff, like, not getting caught up in the little details and instead stepping back to look at everything from that larger, more expansive perspective, right? Like, that's what Jupiter and Capricorn can be really good at, because Capricorn is good at the little details, but Jupiter is good at the expansive, bigger picture stuff, right? And so really, if we can capitalize on that energy, we can be very effective moving forward. And a time for healing, balsamic moon. That's that Chiron energy, that Chiron trine sun energy, that beautiful healing that's going on in the midst of all of this. And, like, honestly, like, really, this keeps coming back up, the communication, like, communicating what we're thinking and what we're feeling right now can be very healing as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed the weekly astrological reports. If you did, definitely give this video a like. I very much appreciate that. It helps a lot. Drop a comment. Let me know how you're feeling about this week, what excites you about this week, what maybe intimidates you, because there is a little bit of that energy, how you're experiencing this as the week goes on. If you watch this video, I love to hear from all of you guys and hear all about all of that stuff. If you are interested, I do personal astrological ascension charts where I look at what planets are transiting your chart right now, what houses they're in, what aspects they're making to your natal planets and to each other, and how that's affecting your own personal ascension journey at this time and moving forward in the near future. So I definitely encourage you guys to maybe check out that service. They're really fun for me to do. I really enjoy it. It's so fascinating and interesting to see how all those energies play out for people personally. I also do personal readings and energy healings. You know, we're healing so much, we're processing so much. Energy healing can really help us to get clarity. It can help us to release and purge and just really get that energy field strong and clean and clear. So I really would encourage you guys to take me up on that, or any of the different services that I offer if you feel that they might be helpful for you at this time. You're also more than welcome to donate to my channel. There is a link down for that below. I absolutely appreciate that, as I absolutely appreciate each and every single one of you. I love you so very, very much, and I will talk to you soon.